G'day golfers. Ever found yourself redirecting blame and making excuses after having an absolute shocker on a golf course? I know that I have. Range was closed, I was a little cold, didn't warm up, I hit it in those 3 old divots. Then we have the podcast for you. We focus on how to fundamentally own your swing. Strike it pure and consistently shoot in the 70s. Be it if you're a weekend hack, retired and playing daily, a school phenom or a tour professional. We present and discuss facts and physics pertaining to golf, trying to keep our ego and opinion at bay. We dispel myths such as keep your head down, bend your knees, or my all-time favourite, game improvement irons. So stop drinking that mythical Kool-Aid and have a sip of ours. I think you'll find it both inspiring and refreshing. I'm Scott Young, founder of Swing, PGA professional and ex-tour player. And together with physical therapist Dr. Sean Joyce, welcome to Pivot the Path. G'day golfers and good morning, SJ.
Good morning everybody. How are we doing today, everyone? Scotty?
We're well. We had a nice little brisk, it's not too bad. It was a little brisk morning this morning.
Yep, it's going to get hot again end of the week, so.
It's meant to be 70, so our house we've got a big old stove that heats our whole entire home and we haven't turned it on yet because if we turn it on, we turn into a furnace. It's going to be like 70 degrees.
Yeah, you're in a tough situation right now because the weather's up and down around here.
But then we had literally 12 hours on a lacrosse field way up near Mass yesterday, and it was cold. It was like 52 degrees.
Yeah, that's tricky. But it'll be good for Halloween, so.
Good. Do you guys Halloween it?
Kind of year to year. This year we don't really have Halloween plans.
Interesting.
And I feel it's one of those things you either go for it all out, really dress up, or don't do it at all.
We have been a Halloween family for decades. They still dress up, our girls, but they dress up with their friends. And so as parents, we're a little heartbroken because we usually do the all-in family 6.
Yeah, so what's your showing as a full family Halloween get
We've
up?
done some solid ones. Probably the best visually, which is all the boss, it's not me, was Dawn of the Dead. We went all out, and that was very good.
That's sweet.
We did Grease with Danny Zuko, the girls. We made leather jackets. Nice. That was cool. We did the Mad Hatter. Oh, we've done some. Yeah,
you got some good ones.
Yeah, we got some good ones.
Yeah, nice.
We had a goal to win our local town family. They used to shut the town down in Maplewood, New Jersey, and it was absolutely awesome.
That's cool.
They shut the main town down, which doesn't have a traffic light in it, so there's probably 60 shops. And the whole town just did Halloween.
Yeah.
And they had a family contest. We came second or third once. That was the closest we got.
Yeah, on the podium at
least. On the podium, yeah. So this Halloween, not sure what's happening. I think the little guy changes his mind more than his underwear, and I think we're down now to vampires. I think the 3 of us are doing vampires.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's us. That's cool. News from the fairways. What do we got? LPGA, young Chinese chick Ruoning Yin. She just continues to win. Third win this year. That's awesome. 3 wins on tour. That's pretty substantial.
That's awesome. Yeah. It seems like for so many people, getting the first one is huge, massive mountain to climb. But then winning again is not easy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it's good to see her win. She seems a good egg. Nelly, don't know what's happening with Nelly. I would imagine Nelly, like a lot of the top guys, she's planning her way around the majors now. That is my. Looking at her results, she's not playing now, so I presume they've sat down and said, right, we want to win majors. And Olympic gold. How do we do that? Yep. So I'd say she's out.
Yeah, taking some time off. Hopefully.
Is she with a hockey player?
Practicing. I don't know.
I think she's with a hockey player. Don't wiki us on that. So hopefully she's watching some hockey.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy it, mate? Do you get into your hockey?
I do. I mean, I grew up playing tons of hockey, so I used to be a lot more into it.
Who do you follow?
Colorado Avalanche. They had some awesome teams back in the 90s, early 2000s, and recently too. They've been really good again, really strong young team. But I used to love the New Jersey Devils, the Detroit Red Wings, and the Colorado Avalanche.
Oh, this is your guy.
Awesome little bit of a rivalry going on, especially the Detroit Red Wings.
Who's your guy again? Your Devils guy?
Oh, Scott Stevens.
Yeah, we got to get him on. Mr. Stevens, we're going to get you on our podcast, I reckon.
He is a punisher.
So you still follow Colorado, though?
Yeah.
I do follow the Rangers. Love me some Rangers. So we're just getting into it. DP Tour, the Genesis Open. This is interesting. So a bit of a Korean belt out. It was actually at a Jack Nicklaus course in South Korea there. And Byeong Hun An won in the playoff against
Tom Kim.
Tommy Kim, who got a little pissed off, hot under the collar, which is good, which shows that he wants to win.
Yeah, frustrated, poor door, but can be fixed.
Yeah, totally.
But it's interesting because we were talking about for all of the South Korean players on PGA Tour.
This is interesting.
All, males in South Korea are required to serve 21 months in the military. Yeah, so for these guys, they've been given before 24 years old, which Tom Kim is 22 right now. He needs to win either an Olympic gold or in the Asian Games a gold medal to become exempt from his military service. So I think even though this event wouldn't have gotten him exempt from that, it's probably a bit of pressure on his back.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the prime of his life, taking 21 months to go serve in the military, just from his golf career is a big time to be away from the game.
Yeah.
So I imagine that has to be weighing heavy on him in some regard.
So we're a big military family. Shout out to Lieutenant Colonel Brian Gomez, who's our very close cousin. We're actually going down to San Antonio this weekend.
Yeah,
he just got promoted. So he's a ranger. He's just one of the most brilliant people I know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love that that old Mr. Kim has to actually step it up a big time to get exempt from his.
It's quite a bit of pressure, and I think
a lot of pressure.
He ended up 8th in the Olympics, I believe, so great showing. But in the Asian Games, he's got to strike gold.
Which gets back to you got to own your swing. So he's got to turn up to those two events, and he's got to forget the outcome and just focus on the process.
Yeah.
Which is easier said than done when 2 years of your life is on the line.
Yeah, so I know Sung Jae Im and another Korean golfer won in the Asian Games a couple years back, so
that exempts
they're
them.
able to continue playing past 24 before going back. Sang Moon Bae, back in mid-2000 teens, had to go back, do his military service, so for those guys, they've got a little extra thing going on.
Yeah, I think it's good for society. No one's above the law.
Yep.
And then we had the PGA Tour, so this is cool. So Colombiano, obviously, Rosie's mum's Colombian. So Nico Echavarria, the young Colombian kid, first PGA Tour win, just massive. I love first-time winners.
Yeah.
Seems a good dude, 30 years of age, so he's not a sprightly.
Yep.
So he now gets all the majors next year.
Yeah.
PGA status for 2 years.
Yeah, that's huge.
Huge.
And then we figure since last season we followed a couple of players as the year went on. We'd continue along with that.
Absolutely.
So I had chose to follow Minwoo Lee. I think he's great entertainment. We got Will Zalatoris. We
Yeah.
talked a lot about some of his injury and stuff going on. And then we figure since we had Cam Davis's Chudes on his caddy, we'd follow him as well. And just
So Mingwoo did well, tied 27th.
Yeah.
Will did pretty well, tied 41st. So they're back playing. So again, just for those who are joining us for the first time, welcome. But the PGA Tour largely stops if you're top 50 or better, number one. They don't play till Hawaii, but the ones who are 51st to 120th have an option to play golf to get their ranking up. Top 100 get a start in pretty well everything. So they're trying to get into that top 100 or thereabouts.
Yeah.
And like Ricky Fowler came third.
Yeah.
Nice to see Rick playing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
But actually a really important time for these players.
Yeah. Who aren't top 50.
Yeah. But we figure if anyone wasn't listening before, we thought it'd be really important to follow just one player or a couple players now throughout the entire season and just report on how they're doing, because if you only ever look at the top of the leaderboards, it looks like everybody's just a birdie machine every single day, every single tournament.
Not
but
true.
It's a game of up and down, so you know better than anybody.
Yeah.
So we figure we'll report on them and just let you guys see kind of how they do week to week, and that will help also manage your own expectations and enjoy your golf
I mean,
a
I
little
think
bit more.
on a serious note, the thing that makes swing and the swing platform and you and I and Pivot the Path so real is that I was that journeyman who really struggled, but bit down on the horse bite and just got it done for a decade or so, and it's tough. Like, it's really hard. So when you see young Chinese lass win 3 times, you're like, oh, dude, that is so impressive. Good on you.
Yeah, really cool.
And then what about on the greens for us? I didn't get out and play. We were lacrossing, basketballing.
I got out Sunday, which is
how'd you
awesome,
play?
down at Marine Park. All right.
Marine Park, how much? Just quickly, tell everyone.
$60
So
they
60
run,
bucks, 18
and then
holes.
they'll charge you $20 for a cart. But they had the Brooklyn Open down there, which I don't know exactly all of that, but it's in really firm, fast conditions right now. So
we're talking south of the island, just near the segue out to the Atlantic Ocean.
Down near Manhattan
Can you
Beach,
see the water?
pretty much. Just a little bit on one part of the course, but other than that, it's a little bit away. But it's in great shape. So tee boxes are great, pretty flat, lot of
Pretty
grass.
flat. Greens?
Greens are fast and really sloped. So
Solid.
if you don't keep the ball below the hole there, it's really difficult.
So it's a flat block of land, but they've built up the complexes.
Greens are really
That's
slow.
cool.
It's
60
great.
bucks.
Yeah, so
Well
I think
worth
for
it.
all the public munis around the city, it's in the best shape. I think it's
Awesome.
the best course to go play. But really easy to three putt if you don't leave it below the hole.
So you got to leave below the hole. There's a novel
Yeah,
concept,
so a few
SJ.
too many putts on my end.
So
I think
then,
everybody was putting a lot out
Were you
there.
putting poorly, or did you leave it above the hole?
Above the hole a couple times.
So instead of working on your putting, which we always do, SJ and I kind of do 5-10 minutes most days. Actually, I do it every day, so I've got to get you putting a little more.
Yeah.
Instead of working on your putting, maybe you should work on your 7-iron.
Yeah.
Distance control.
And then,
How was the big dog?
okay, some good, some bad. But I could
Okay.
feel like we had talked about last week, last time I played, you noticed, I was kind of lifting a little at the top with my arms and coming up out of my posture a bit. I could feel it a few times, and that swing was never
So that's good. So now we've got
results.
feel to then tell us where to practice. So we're going to touch back on towel drill. I think it's so key. There's ups and downs for it. And we're going to work on how we pair the body a little bit.
Yeah, so we talked a lot recently with towel drill starting this off, but your kind of setup posture, and then the thought was, well, where do we go from here? So we figure we can talk a little bit into the backswing, and from my perspective, just talking a bit biomechanics, how we like your hips to rotate, how to load up that right glute, how to pair that with thoracic rotation, and then on your end, how that ties into golf and creating good impact mechanics.
Yeah, I think the big thing that I'm starting to learn, people ask, well, what's your philosophy differed to others, is that I've actually kind of articulated and cracked how to talk about this. I'll actually teach in reverse. So I'm always going to look at the numbers and then work backwards rather than having a philosophy and put Rory next to you and say, hey, this is optimal, which produces the ball flight. I'm going to go, well, what is the ball flight? What are the numbers? What do you need them to be? And then work backwards. So point is, we don't have a method in here.
Yeah.
We teach biomechanics and math.
I think mine's use the
Biomechanics,
biomechanics
yeah.
objectively, so it's not really my opinion, but then everyone has their little, box of biomechanics that they have available. So things you like to see, but in some cases it doesn't work for everyone's body. You have to find some sort of workaround that doesn't sacrifice the ball flight. And
Should we get
control
into
like
it?
we're
Let's show people what we're doing. So what we wanted to do is just start a narrative that's extremely factual, and I think the difference with swing and most other platforms for golf improvement is that we're based on biomechanics and facts, right?
Yep. Yeah.
There's a ton of video, and I get flooded with my social media about all this mumbo jumbo about pushing the knees apart, squelching the feet. Now, some of that is true if you're built in the manner in which supports that process, and this is why we don't teach a platform, and I think that's the future of the success of swing. So one of the videos that's going viral right now is that we push these knees apart and our feet rotate outwardly. Now, for me personally, if I did that, that would ruin my personal golf game, because I'm a guy who's built with massive internal rotation, and you're helping me, actually ironically diminishing how much my tibias, bottom bones, change the way I turn. So maybe we can talk about that really quickly.
Yeah. And it's just a bit of your body's organized itself to create some sort of balance, but because you go so heavy internal rotation with your upper legs,
So I've got
your
70
femurs,
degrees of internal rotation.
Yeah, you have no external rotation going on. And so your shins have then said, all right, well, we've got to flare out and get external rotation there, and then your feet have to counterbalance to keep you upright and moving around. But in your case, external rotation is a big limitation.
Really difficult.
If you're cranking into that range of motion that you don't have, then it's not going to do you any good for your golf.
So practically what that looks like is that if I was to splay both my feet, whilst that would increase my lead hip rotation, it would absolutely destroy my trail hip rotation, and that would hurt my lower back. So if I push my knees apart, squelch my feet into the ground, but it would actually ruin my golf game. So we've just got to make sure that whenever you start to grab an opinion, make sure it works for your body, right?
Yeah.
So here, let's talk about let's find some solutions. So for me, I like a posture where for me personally, not for everyone, my right foot is almost pigeon-toed. Now, that's going to limit how much my trail hip internally rotates, but I've got crazy thoracic rotation, so that's fine. So I have my right foot square, but I'm greedy. I've got 70 degrees in my left hip, but I still splay my left foot a quarter of a turn. So that's how my feet work. And then from there, I'm always going to use towel drill. If you don't like towel drill, you can use your glove. If you don't wear a glove, you can use your watch. What I like is for the lead hand just to have a reference point. We find teaching in here that if you give the brain a reference point like a watch or a glove logo, then you can start to see where you are in the backswing.
Exactly.
So what does that look like, SJ, in terms of posture? So we're chest to ball.
Exactly. So, and we had talked about last week with towel drill, just getting, for you, Scotty, a little bit
Posterior.
of this extension out. So a little posterior is a little more neutral there. We had you give a sensation of a tiny bit of the ribs crunching, so core has some leverage.
We look at most of our members in here at what we call in thoracic extension because that's their posture walking around and looking at their screens. So it's getting the posture to be neutral. Because I'm anteriorly tilted, I've got to feel like my butt is way underneath me, like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons.
And then if we talk about stance width here.
Yeah, another one. Everyone goes on and on about you should widen your stance for driver. Here's the facts about that. The wider the stance, what happens to the body there?
Oh, you start to lose internal rotation.
Okay.
So whenever your feet get wider, we call this abduction. You start to pair, abduction pairs with external rotation in the hip.
Abduction.
So if we talk about stance width, if your feet and legs get outside your hip, the wider they go, that's a paired motion, abduction we call it, with external rotation. So for that left hip wanting to internally rotate.
As a right-handed golfer.
As a right-handed golfer, it's really difficult to use that range of motion just with how the ball and socket of your hip joint works. So it's important, I think, in the swing, you can keep your hips contained within your base of support.
So feet should be underneath shoulder boil.
Feet should be, yes, a little wider than your hips, but you don't want to be pushing way out here. Otherwise, you start to take away some of the rotation that you actually have. If you widen it too much, you start to rob yourself of rotation.
Which means you're going to use your torso outside in. Now we're starting to change your golf swing.
So in your case, I mean, you've got a lot of reps practicing this. You fall right into place here.
So square right, splay left, tuck tailbone, chest to ball, arms down.
Yep, and feet are just a tiny bit wider than the hips, I like to see.
So we're going to go beautiful, soft, neutral posture. Now from there, all that happens, and SJ talked about this, how would you explain the backswing? I studied for years down at NYU the kinematic sequence. It's basically an extremely technical way to describe motion. We just want the club to move first via the thoracic spine. You know, Greg Norman once used, 20, 30 years ago, Norman used to say, I like the Y to stay as long as possible. I still think the same thing. Because what we're looking for here, remember, everything we do with golf, face less than path. So if I want to keep this face nice and square, I try and turn as much as I can with my thoracic spine.
So first move is T-spine.
T-spine,
and you're
T-spine,
moving your
T-spine.
whole rib cage and chest. So this isn't just arms. This isn't hips going first. This is just T-spine.
Just your thoracic spine.
Your hips have done nothing. Your arms have done nothing other than be pushed by your thoracic spine.
Again, lots of golfers ask to get those hips moving first. Now, the upside of that is it increases potential energy in terms of speed, velocity. The downside, when the hips move first, the club comes inside. That's not a bad thing. When the club comes inside, we like that. But unfortunately, when the hip moves first, the club comes inside and the face opens. Now the club's opening 60 degrees. Remember, face less than path. So if the face is open 60 degrees, golf's very difficult. So in a perfect world, square right, splay left, chest to ball, tuck the tailbone. When I'm practicing personally, I'm going to go through this all the time. I think the thing that you and I love that, you know, we've helped your golf game a little bit. Sean and I are very thorough in how we're practicing. We don't do things off the cuff. Square right, splay left, chest to ball, tuck the tailbone. If everyone got into a habit of just getting into good posture, they're good to go. From there, thoracic spine first. Right hip hasn't moved. When the thoracic spine gets to its end range, now the hip can open a little bit.
Yeah, really good. So from there, we start just thoracic spine. So upper body's going to start the backswing.
T-spine, 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 T-spine.
And you're going to feel a point, if you do this really slow, where this has no more motion to keep going.
The shoulder turns to the golf ball.
And the hips
Why?
start to go with it.
Because we're using our thoracic spine. If the shoulder turns above the golf ball, we're using our lower back. Shoulder to the golf ball, lead shoulder. For me, left shoulder to the ball means I'm using my thoracic spine. Keep turning, keep turning, keep turning. I keep the face to the ball to quieten the face. keep turning, keep turning, keep turning. That's about the extent of my thoracic spine.
Mm-hmm.
There's
really
the top
good.
of the backswing.
Yeah, so here with that turn, I think it's really easy to see this if we look from this face down the line view. I actually have myself here, where he's not just turning flat with his shoulders. So you're, Scotty, actually getting some side bend in. There's some rib cage sway going on. Now, if we look at it, if I'm just standing straight here, it's important that when you add that side bend in, it's not my head, my upper body dumping out to the side here.
Really important.
If you do that, you're going to feel your ribs hit your hip bone. That does not feel good. Also doesn't help you turn. So when we add that side bend in, if I wasn't to be in golf posture and actually rotating, the side bend is where think of my forehead, my sternum, and my hips stay in a straight line, but the side bend comes from there.
Where's
So
there?
it's
What do you mean?
just a couple inches of movement, but it's my sternum in my head, my belt buckle stay in a straight line, but I still can create side bend without losing that.
And why do we
So
need side bend? What does that do?
that allows you to stay steep in your backswing. So if I now face down the line for you guys, if I don't side bend and I rotate, I'm going to be flat
So
with my
the
shoulders.
angle of your shoulders is now flat?
Yes. Now you get that side bend in, I can rotate, and now I'm steep with my shoulders.
So is that
which you
something
should
that
be able to
golfers
see.
should work on, SJ, or is that going to be a natural occurrence for most? Or is it all varied?
So it's going to be blended in with your movement, but I think a lot of people don't feel that. They don't understand how to use their obliques and create some rib sway. And so it's a great thing to start to train so that it just blends in with your thoracic rotation.
So would you agree that the younger crew below 15, 16 will have a greater ability to get into side bend?
Likely, yeah, less time to be stiff and tight.
Yeah.
So in the gym, you can learn how to use your obliques so that when you show up and you're swinging, you just use them automatically. You don't have to think about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's really important that side bend creates a lot of the potential to control face and path. And it's important to be aware of that. It's something you can practice a little bit. If you look in the mirror and you see your head is diving off to the side when you side bend, you're not quite doing it right. So keep things lined up, but get the shoulder line to get steeper here, but don't lose your actual stacking of your posture.
And that's a lot. So if you want to send us some video, we can help. Because remember, your backswing, in my opinion, so towel drill allows me to keep relatively short and quite a compact backswing. If I wanted to generate a wider arc, then I'd probably lose towel drill and disconnect my arms. For me, that's a negative because then the face starts to change and I'm creating speed with my hips, not my torso. So towel drill has its upside and downside. For me, I'm all about control. So to me, there's no downside for towel drill, but you could argue that it is diminishing the speed a little bit, although I think I'm going to sacrifice a little bit of speed for accuracy.
Yeah, sure. So that kind of brings us then to, we're talking about backswing thoracic spine, the spine angle.
Yeah.
So what are we looking for at the top of the swing with your spine?
Again, so this is kind of there's a lot of philosophies in this. I like 50-50 at address.
In terms of weight?
In terms of weight, yep, left and right. And we use force inner soles here. The golf swing should rotate around a fixed spine, but there are philosophies out there where the mass moves forward towards the target. Now, the upside of that is that it's going to ensure that your sternum, which is where the club hits the ground, verbatim, Tiger, Scott, Sean, whomever, your sternum, your chin is where the club hits the ground. So a lot of the philosophies are if I keep my weight stacked forward, I am going to hit the ball first before the ground. That's a good thing. The downside is you need a ton of internal rotation in the hip, which most males don't have. Mm-hmm. So be very careful with philosophy. So to answer your question, spine angle is the angle between your belt buckle, sacrum, and your sternum chin. And we want that to stay pretty constant. And I rotate around a fixed axis, right? Again, guys talk about keeping that left heel, the Nicklaus famous move. Maybe Nicklaus's external rotation of his hip was so tight that he had to pick up his left heel. So we just keep it to facts. Chin, shirt buttons, belt buckle all stay the same and I rotate around that spine. My mass goes a little more into my trail hip. So I've got about 60% of mass into my right, force into my right shoe.
At what point in the swing there are you feeling 60% on that right side?
So I'm probably 50-50, 55-45, so mainly into my right. Top of my backswing, I'm 60% into my right glute, but notice my head hasn't moved at all. I've just rotated my T-spine. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's the top of my backswing. I'm 60-40. For me, because I'm knock-kneed, then my knee goes and away I go. But top of the backswing, as we're talking about today, square right, splay left, chest to ball, tuck my tailbone. That is my absolute, for me personally, my mantra. From there, head does not move one bit. Thoracic spine rotates. When my thoracic spine gets to its end range, I let that hip open. Shoulder to the ball, top of the backswing. Head hasn't moved.
So, where do you feel pressure in this right foot at the top of the backswing?
Top of the backswing, I am into that big toe.
Okay. So, from here, we've talked about thoracic spine, now spine angle a little bit. We got to talk about the hips here a little. So, down the line, what you guys should see, as I said, we want the hips to stay contained within your base of support, which is your feet.
So they don't move side.
That hip is not getting outside his right foot. So you're going to see from that angle where you guys are watching, your hip is inside your right foot there. Really good.
So the right hip works back on itself. We notice that a lot of people struggle with their golf swing because they don't have hip mobility and their hip starts laterally moving. Now my spine angle, chin, shirt button, sternum, sacrum is tilted towards the screen. Really dangerous position for your lower back.
Yep, and from there, just me thinking with wanting to load this right glute to create some power. If your hip gets outside that right foot, you can't push back this way. You can only pull yourself back there. So
What's
your
the difference
glutes
in that?
Out of the question. Well, if your center of mass, which is right through your hips here, is outside your base of support, you can't push off this right side. You can only pull with that left leg, which is not what we're looking for. That means no right glute is involved in the swing.
So there's no glutes.
How you're going to create a lot of power. So it's important to keep those hips contained within the feet. So a thought, I think, let me know if this makes sense to you, Scotty, is this right hip is going to go straight back.
So square right, splay left, chest to ball, tuck tailbone. I do the same mantra every single time. Say that again, sorry to interrupt.
So then we've got thoracic spine starts it. He's got that little bit of rib crunch on the left side.
Now
and then
my
his right hip pretty much goes directly back, but it rotates as well.
Yeah.
Really good. So you should feel coiled up. What Scotty should feel at the top of his backswing here is he gets a little tension into his right glute. You should feel a little tension in your left obliques.
Definitely.
And probably a little bit behind this right shoulder blade pulling back and around.
Yeah. Pretty simple. There's the top of the backswing. From there, we'll do transition next week.
Yeah, exactly. So for you guys, if you want to practice this a little bit, go really slow at first. When you're swinging, there's not enough time to actually feel your glute load, your obliques load up, your right shoulder blade pulling back around. Take some time, go really slow, get in front of a mirror, make sure you keep those hips within the feet. You're not losing your spine angle as you go through and rotate, and try and start to feel those muscles working. Feel free to pause at the top and give your brain some time to sense what's going on. From there, you can start to create a repeatable movement pattern that will then, when we talk about transition and downswing, keep you from the same spot each time so you got some consistency.
And again, golfers, make sure you objectively look at what you're working on. Does this make sense to get the hips firing as the main power source? And does my body, or can my body perform what I'm trying to do? And again, you can't understand that until you measure. You've got to understand and measure your body. How does your body move? Put it into a bucket. And once you're in your bucket, all right, now, what do I have to do to a golf swing? If you lack internal or external rotation, for myself, because my external rotation, which is the way the right hip, trail hip moves into impact, because I'm so tight, I can't open my trail foot. I have to keep it square or I can't move. So again, just understand, measure who you are, understand who you are, and then start to work on your golf swing. Remember, slow is more than ripping drivers.
Yep, exactly. So next week after today, building the backswing, we're going to start talking about transition, coming back the other way.
Yeah.
And we'll piece it together one little bit at a time.
Beauty golfers, look, thanks for listening. Remember, you can absolutely own your swing with the work you put into your golf game off the golf course.
Yep, happy Halloween.
Happy
See
Halloween.
you next week.